to the Verdin Verdict Sports Show. I'm your host, Jacob Verdin. We're bringing you sports talk on the go, and I'm joined by David. We got a great stream on deck for you. Of course, y'all saw the title, Heisman Breakdown. Everyone wants to know, is Jayden Daniels ready? Is he one of our better quarterbacks at LSU in LSU's history after all these records? We're going to compare the Heisman odds. We're going to take a look at LSU versus Mizzou, of course. I know everyone's chomping at the bit to find out what's going to happen between the Tigers versus the Tigers. We got the SGP for the week. We're going to make some more picks for you between this game. We're going to parlay something. You know, we went 3 for 4 in the parlay last week. LSU couldn't hold that spread down. I know everyone wishes LSU walked out of there with a W. So with that being said, we're going to focus on, how the defense is going to switch things up, who's leading the SEC, and we're going to try to move forward in week 6 and see what we learned from last week. And, not only just last week, but the last couple of weeks for LSU. Kind of been rough, kind of been not necessarily a rough patch because it's kind of been a roller coaster, I'd say. That'd be a more comparable thing. What have you thought about LSU, and what's your overall assessment of what's happening right now in Baton Rouge?
I'd say it's pretty unpredictable right now for the football team. You want to go into every game saying, okay, they got a good shot, they got a good chance, but at the end of the day, you never know what can happen. Defense might not hold up their end of the stick. Special teams might collapse out of nowhere.
Sure.
Offense might not be able to convert when you need to. But I think the LSU football team has all of the tools that they need in order to be successful. It's just a matter of using them now.
Right, and sometimes, as you see in professional sports, college sports, sports at any level really, things on paper don't always transition to things on the field and the live reps, when the schemes really hit. So I think, like you said, they're going to have to find a way to, go back to the drawing board, kind of throw away the expectations that people had at the beginning and then, kind of model them into what you're going to be able to do in reality. Coach Kelly, kind of mentioned there's nobody else walking in those doors. This is who we got. We're going to have to figure some things out. They move in with hiring the analyst, Coach Pete, on the defensive line to iron some things out. But we're going to dive into that a little bit later. We got some sound bites with Coach Kelly, giving his opinion on that. But for starters, let's open this thing up with, the main event of the evening, I would say. Jayden Daniels, Heisman case. You're going to hear a lot of noise about this. We're going to hear a lot of noise about what we say. I think Jayden Daniels has a pretty strong case for a Heisman. I think, you're going to have to label him underdog, as you've seen in the thumbnail. I think, he's going to be a sleeper in this category, but he's very deserving of being He's very deserving of being mentioned here. He's going to be, in my opinion, one of the top 3 quarterbacks in terms of Heisman rankings. Let's look at the odds, though. They got Caleb Williams leading the pack at number 1, of course. Michael Penix Jr. is trailing right behind him in Heisman odds at number 2, followed by Bo Nix. You got Quinn Ewers, Jordan Travis, Dylan Gabriel, and Jayden Daniels as your top 7 in the eyes of Vegas to take home the Heisman Trophy. Now, I'm not going to say that this list is bogus. I'm not going to say that, Jayden Daniels isn't at the top. Throw it in the garbage. No, you expect that. That's why we're going to label him a sleeper. That's why, we're kind of arguing and getting on our soapbox for today. Let's kind of dial in to why I would make this claim. He's throwing accurate. If there was one thing that you had to take away from Jayden Daniels' season last year and something that, you would have to critique and grow on, and he'd be the first to admit it, it would be his accuracy, his decision-making, being able to just keep that confidence with him when he escapes the pocket. Don't always want to run like the wind, but you do want to find that balance to be able to extend the drives, to be able to utilize your strengths. You don't want to handicap yourself. You don't want to tie your hands behind your back, leave some of the strengths on the sideline. You want to be able to actually put your best effort on the field. So I think being one of the better mobile quarterbacks, he's going to have to find that balance of not getting laid out on the field, and he's going to actually have to get down and protect that football and in the air and on the ground, make those decisions. Make those smart decisions. I think he's got the spotlight on him to be able to get that Heisman attention. I don't know if he's going to be able to win all the big games. Unfortunately, we see us drop the Ole Miss game, drop the Florida State game. There was a close game with Arkansas. So, the defense and a couple of, younger mistakes on the offensive side even are potentially going to prohibit him from being in that main event caliber LSU Alabama game, that steering the ship like it did last year for him. I don't know if that's going to have hold as much weight just because of what the team's going to be facing going forward. So not winning the big games, might be his Achilles heel. All in all, though, if you want to look at his performance statistically when compared to these leaders, I would say that, he's second, maybe third in terms of rankings by statistics. Let's look at his total yardage on this year, 2,002 total yards. That puts him second among that top seven. He's only second to Michael Penix Jr., who's 6 yards ahead of him. They both are the only two quarterbacks to break that 2,000 total yard mark. Let's look at the touchdowns. High production. He's second in total touchdowns among these top seven with 19. He's only second to Caleb Williams, who has been hanging a lot of points. I mean, that offense is red hot. Everyone will be the first to tell you that the reigning Heisman is probably going to be the one who's putting the points on the board the most. But the fact that Jayden Daniels is trailing him at second, I think that says something. If you're second and number one is the reigning Heisman, I think you need to be in that. So, I think we got some network issues. Sorry about that. But Jayden Daniels has only got 2 interceptions. He hasn't had those issues that he had last year. He's been able to find that comfort in the pocket. He's been able to get that protection by that offensive line. He's been able to find his weapons in Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr. And I think, probably one of the more underrated elements as to why Jayden was able to just explode this year is probably going to be that running back room. I think the fact that they have so many tools in that backfield that open up the scheme, that take the pressure off of him, that make him not have to get all of the yards. Logan Diggs being the rushing yard leader for LSU, that already takes plenty of weight off of Jayden's shoulders. So I think Coach Kelly, they're on the right path in terms of preparing Jayden for the NFL. You see them, bring him back one more year. They're like, man, you got something left in the tank. And boy, were they right, because this is exactly what they envisioned. A great year for Jayden, turning a lot of the narratives around on their head. What do you think about Jayden? What do you think about his Heisman case and this whole debate of whether or not JD5 is Heisman caliber?
I think coming into the season, there was a lot of Jayden Daniels. I mean, after that first season he had with LSU, we've seen his upside, but then there's also a lot of people who've seen the negatives that he can bring to your program. I mean, some people were calling him like a quarterback who couldn't throw the deep ball. He was kind of scared to trust his receivers. He was running too much. I seen somebody call him a running back, and I was like, "Jeez." And he's came out, and in my opinion, he's put up a really, really strong performance and a really good argument on why he should be at least a Heisman favorite. Like, let's just look at LSU's stats right now. They have the 6th best passing offense in the nation, not just the SEC. They have the 6th best in the nation, the 7th best scoring offense. Jayden Daniels has 1,700 yards passing, 16 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. I mean, just the way he can get this LSU offense to produce, and it's being overshadowed by the fact that our defense is playing probably some of the worst defense they've played in a minute. And if that defense was able to tidy up a little bit earlier, I'm definitely sure Jayden Daniels would be, if not like top 3 Heisman candidates right now. I mean, he's playing great football. He could get the ball, and what I like from him especially is that we're starting to see those NFL throws. We're starting to see him throw guys open, like where he's leading these receivers. He's getting it downfield. He's making calls like an NFL-esque quarterback. He's really good in that offense, and I think that as we continue on with this college football season, he'll definitely get some more recognition. Right now, he's at plus 3,500 odds. That puts him 8th according to CBS, and I mean, there's a lot of people doubting Jayden Daniels right now, but I think this offense is top in the nation, and if we get that defense to match it, there'll most definitely be something over there.
For sure. And, I think that it's pretty good to go to the source for things like this. We're sitting here, we're putting, Jayden Daniels on this pedestal, but let's find out what Jayden actually thinks about this on Tuesday. We got to sit down with him. I know I accidentally clicked it, and y'all kind of got a sneak peek, but let's go in, let's dive, let's hear the whole thing. JD5 101, let's go. So Jayden Daniels, he's like you said
Yep.
after the Arkansas game, calm, cool, collected, hemmed in. I mean, man, how do you do that with all the cameras on you, all the attention on you, all the nation on you? When you're playing the quarterback position, it's like the hardest position on the field. You got the most eyes on you, and when things go wrong, you get the most hate. However, when things go right, you do get a lot of credit. And I think, here's a credit that I'm going to give Jayden Daniels. I think that in a situation where, things are going down around him, he's watching, the defense let the offense go down the field. They're letting touchdowns get scored. They're letting points get scored. In general, they're not doing their job. Normal quarterbacks, average quarterbacks, will get rattled. Yeah. They might fizzle out. They might not be conditioned mentally for that moment. They might not have that short memory that many legendary quarterbacks, Eli Manning, would preach about. You got to be able to stay on the field, and you got to be able to let things go. Eli Manning said it best. When you're a younger guy, you want to be able to instill those qualities in your players, and I think Jayden Daniels has that, and more than anybody out of this list. LSU, going from Arizona State, that's a big market. That's a big jump. That's a big, sped up list. Look at these guys. Caleb Williams at USC. He's in the Pac-12. You got Michael Penix Jr. in there. Bo Nix in there. Quinn Ewers in the Big 12. Jordan Travis in the ACC. Dylan Gabriel in the Big 12. I mean, Jayden Daniels is playing some of the roughest competition here. And I feel like, he's on par. If ranking by statistics, I would put it Penix, Caleb Williams, Jayden Daniels, Dylan Gabriel, Quinn Ewers, Bo Nix, Jordan Travis. And I'm not being biased. I know LSU lost to Florida State. Y'all thinking, he's putting Jordan Travis at the bottom. No, Jordan Travis has the least total yards out of these guys, the least total touchdowns. I just think it's kind of going to be the spot where he'd lie. I feel like Jayden Daniels, second in total yards out of these guys, tied for second out of total touchdowns. He's got to be in the top three, at least, in the conversation. I'd argue he'd be a Heisman finalist come December. Come when it's time to actually talk about it. However, for right now, he'll be floating in and out of it. And I guess that's expected. But let's move things, forward. LSU versus Mizzou on Saturday, 11 in the morning. I mean, that's brutal. 11 a.m. You got to get a lot of people out of bed early for that one. Last week, Brady Cook set the SEC record for 348 straight passes without an interception. That's insane. I want to point out that Mizzou's ranked higher. Keep in mind, they're also undefeated. Now, I'm not trying to sound the alarm bells and tell everybody, Mizzou's running through LSU. No, that's not what I'm saying. But I do want to dial some expectations back. This is not the same Mizzou that we can normally just check off the list and just W it off. This might be a shootout. This might be a nail-biter, especially with the way things have been going. I mean, look at the Ole Miss game. Look at the Arkansas game. And there's been a couple other moments where I've been worried about LSU along the way. So I think LSU and Mizzou is going to be a lot closer than people would expect. Yep. What do you think about the game? What do you think about the matchup? A lot of things sticking out here on paper for this one.
I definitely think this game is going to be harder than a lot of people expected. I think a lot of people thought that after the Ole Miss loss, but okay, LSU's going to come into Mizzou and get a quick W and try to just turn around the momentum, but that's not. It can go wrong. Like, what can go wrong? LSU can get into there and definitely see, oh shoot, this is a different Mizzou team we're talking about. I mean, any undefeated team in college football is a team that you should look at. And then this is the SEC at the end of the day. These were all four-star, five-star recruits. These guys are all college football athletes. And it's like, at the end of the day, you never know what can go on. Yeah, and, they are all great SEC D1 athletes. That's a good point. However, some of these athletes on Mizzou are not just any SEC athletes, but SEC leaders, SEC statistical leaders. Ladies and gentlemen, Luther Verdin, the wide receiver at Mizzou. I just want to let y'all know that man is going to be a problem. I know a lot of people already know this going into the game, but if you don't know who Luther Verdin is, you might want to put a mark down for that young man. He's number one in the SEC in receiving yards and number one in the SEC in total receptions. He's also tied at fourth for touchdowns, which he's tied with Malik Neighbors. I think that this guy is the it factor for Mizzou. He's the reason why they're performing so well. Well, with Brady Cook, I'm not going to undermine that and the running game, but I think that this Luther Verdin factor opens and spreads the field so much, makes everybody play true, kind of stresses a lot of people out. But, let's talk about that running game. Their running back is number 2 in rush yards, and he's also
number 2 in attempts in the SEC. Now, if you've got the number 2 running back, the number 1 wide receiver, and a very accurate quarterback, that spells issues and trouble for a team that doesn't have a solid defense, or doesn't have solid defensive momentum, I would say. I don't want to say our defense isn't solid because we got a lot of talent, and I think we're a couple pieces away and a couple tweaks and a couple adjustments from fixing, what happened and all the woes that we've been experiencing. But something I also want to point out, and something that Brian Kelly said today in his media availability, is that if you were to total up the tacklers from 2022, 8 of the top 11 are gone. 8 of the top 11 are gone. So now everybody's got to jump into new roles. Now everybody's got to, wear a new hat, so to speak. And I'm not saying that they're not capable of doing it, but there is some growing room. There's some growing pains and some moments where, you're going to miss a Mekhi Garner, a Jay Ward, a B.J. Ojolari, Ali Gay. You're going to miss those type of guys. Hell, even Jaquelin Roy. I mean, there's a lot of pieces. Micah Baskerville. We can go on and on and on. There's a lot of pieces that we lost that I think would be very beneficial, for us today. If you took last year's defense and this year's offense, LSU would be a problem. And there wouldn't be a soul in college football not worried about playing the Tigers on Saturday. With that being said, I think since, we're 1 year removed from that defense, it's still possible. The coordinators are still there. The core pieces, I feel like, are still there. You still got a lot of great talent, as we said. What do you do? What do you change going into Saturday? You got a pretty rough matchup. If you look at it on paper, Mizzou, number 7 pass offense, LSU, number 3 pass offense. So you got a top 10 pass offense playing a top 10 pass offense. That's insane. However, when you look at the defensive side of the ball, the pass defense, LSU ranks number 130.
Oh, God.
Mizzou does rank 107. I know. It's rough. These are rough numbers, rough matchups. What do you think? What are you doing if you're Matt House? First off, how are you feeling if you're Matt House? But secondly, what are you doing in this situation? How do you get out of this rut?
Sounds like it's going to be another shootout. Sounds like it's going to be another Ole Miss situation, because if LSU can't stop the run, there's as much we can do. Luther is already going to open up their offense so much. He's going to spread out that LSU defense just because of the threat he is, the deep threat he is, the run after catch that he gets. Definitely the ball is going to be in his hand a lot. And it's up to that LSU defense to see if they can rally, if they can tackle, if we can put some pressure on the quarterback, if they can stop the run. If those things aren't getting done, I mean, it's gonna be a long day for LSU. There's only so much Whit Weeks and Harold Perkins can do.
Yeah.
I mean, there's this. If I'm Matt House, what can Matt House do at this point? Honestly, besides just adjust, watch the film, put your players in the best position, and after that, it's up to the players to just play football. I think what BK said a couple weeks ago about the DBs is what was really strong about how you just don't be a playmaker. Don't go out there looking for the play. Just focus on your assignment. I think we've gotten a lot of that from the LSU defense, particularly. I enjoy how they have so much energy when they play. That defense can get so loud. They can get all up in your face, and that can make it really intimidating for the other team. But when everybody on that defense is looking to make the star play, to get on ESPN top 10, it makes it hard for you to run a fully functioning defense. And I think the first thing they need to do is take a step back and say, hey, we're football players right now. Right now, for the next 60 minutes, play your assignment. If you got a soft zone, take the soft zone. You got a deep, take the deep. Don't try to jump anything that you're not sure of. Don't try to do anything different. Let every single guy play their role, and that makes the entire defense. And I think on the offensive side of the ball, LSU will be just okay. I mean, we got Brian Thomas Jr. and Malik Neighbors that are going to open up that Mizzou defense. We have a solid run game that's really helping out Jayden Daniels. I mean, finding that number 1 in Logan Diggs has really allowed this offense to flourish. That pound for pound, and he can break out and get you some. We have a fresh running back room all the time. And Jayden Daniels is just going to throw the ball where he needs to. I mean, we have a pretty good offense. It's up to the defense now to just make some stops. And even if they can't fully stop the run game, if we can just get some pressure on the quarterback, I think that turns it in tide for LSU a lot, puts them in favor.
Yeah, I think pressure on the quarterback is going to be very pivotal here in this game because we're not talking about any quarterback. Let's look at their matchup against, I would say, their toughest opponent all season. At the time, Kansas State was number 15, and Mizzou beat them. I think that they played pretty well throughout the entire game. There wasn't too many moments. Sure, a 3-point win, but there wasn't too many moments where I thought Mizzou was going to lose that. You know, they're up at half. They go ahead and finish out strong. Brady Cook with 350-plus passing yards. Luther Burden with 114 receiving yards, 2 receiving touchdowns. I mean, when these guys get going in the passing game, they go out and they drop a bag. You know, they go out and they ball out. They set records. I think that if the defense had any moment in 2023, this college football season, if they had any moment where their backs were against a wall, they had the biggest target, they had all the noise, they had everything going against them, and they had to turn around and prove everybody wrong and put up or shut up, I think this is that moment. Oh, yeah. I mean, you do have dogs on that defense. We've seen them. We've witnessed it. We're able to, you know, watch them practice this summer, this fall, even in the spring, and I mean, even dating back to last season with the guys that we had. I believe that, you know, the defense is motivated. And Coach Kelly said that himself. Yep. The defense, you know, they don't like hearing the noise. They don't like seeing that. I think that they got a chip on their shoulder, and that's very, very important. Very important, especially when you're playing defense. I think that you want to be physical. You want to be up front. You want to be violent. I want to get these guys pissed off. I ain't going to lie. We got number 23 GT in the chat. Brian Kelly and Matt House. Wasted a special offense, he says. Yep. And then he says Mizzou is on fraud watch, and that LSU is going to blast Mizzou. Man, I would love to see it. I would love to see LSU get in and drop a huge, you know, 40-point win, 20-point win. However, you know, in my gut, with how I've seen this offense, Mizzou at least, you know, how I've seen them on paper, how we've seen them in the Kansas State game, in the different, you know, moments along the year where they've stayed undefeated. They stayed in the top 25. They stayed in conversation, which is, you know, rare for Mizzou. So for them to be able to be at this point, I don't think they're, like you said, the Mizzou of the past. I think it is something that they should be on their toes about. They shouldn't walk in and just, you know, think they're going to breeze through this one. I think that you should take the offense, you know, you should take them seriously. They got the number 1 wide receiver, number 2 running back in terms of yards. This quarterback can really dot you up, really make that defense pay for lax coverages, bust coverages, miscommunications, just, you know, being unconditioned, being tired, being lazy, being frustrated. You know, I can go on and on and on. I think that if there was a game that I could see LSU, you know, preseason, us saying they're going to run away with, and now our tune's completely changing, I think this would be that game. You know, we didn't think Mizzou was going to run out and go 5-0 and be ranked higher than us and, you know, be able to perform and score over 30 points a game. I think, you know, they're not Alabama. They're not something that you need to worry about. I think we have the upper hand. I mean, Vegas has it at -4.5, and in our SGP that we're about to talk about, I did lean towards the LSU Tigers. So, I mean, I agree. I think LSU is going to get this done. I think the defense is going to show up big in some moments that they're going to need to flex some muscle in. I think we're going to be pretty impressed, I believe. I think we're going to get that W. We're going to be able to regroup, recalibrate, learn from what's been going on. Let's talk about the SGP, though. I'm gonna stop. You know, I'm gonna stop previewing it. Let's just go ahead and jump right into it. So, I think that LSU is going to take the dub. I think LSU money line is the way to go. I think they got some pretty good value at it. We got Jayden Daniels, 275 plus passing yards on an alternate. He's been hitting it every game. The only game that Jayden really didn't ball in terms of passing yards, almost 300, would be the Grambling game. He sat on the bench because we were up so much. We already been down this road. Mason Taylor, 32.5 plus receiving yards. We're taking the over on that as well. I think that's locks. Mason Taylor, you know, that's 2-3 catches for the young man. He can break off for 20, 25 extended yak yards. That's a young Travis Kelce.
Yes, sir.
That's a young Travis Kelce right there, Mason Taylor. And then we're going to end it off with Logan Diggs, 60-plus rushing yards. RB1, he's getting a lot of carries, a lot. He's getting over, 14 carries a game, you know, the last 2 weeks. I think he's, like we said last week, he solidified himself as the guy. Come and take it. You know, he's leading LSU. He's running back room in yards, running back room in carries. He's got, in the running back room, the most catches, the most receiving yards. He's being utilized. They're using him, putting him on the field, putting him in when the moments matter. So I think I would trust him on this. All four legs currently right now plus 340. I think there's some value behind that. What are you thinking about this week if you had to scratch
Ooh,
something up?
this week I'm anticipating a good matchup. I'm gonna be up really early, ready for this game. I got LSU covering the spread 4-5. I think that's pretty good. Vegas really they're on and off. They get it right sometimes, they get it wrong sometimes. But I think this 4-5 is looking really good right now. I think LSU covers. I got Jayden Daniels over 290 yards. I think that Jayden Daniels is just gonna light him up with offensive wise. He's really good at throwing that vertical ball. You see, I know that Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr. are going to be open all day for him to throw it down. And like you said, there's only one game in which he didn't throw over 300 yards, and that was because he sat down because they were already up by like 50. So I definitely think Jayden Daniels gets that done. And I got Logan Diggs with one anytime rushing touchdown. I mean, if we're in the red zone, just hand it off to Diggs. I think he pounds it in. 2 touchdowns last game against Ole Miss, even in the loss. I think he's really solidified himself as that back who can get it in for you.
If it ain't broke, do not fix
Don't
it.
fix it.
If it ain't broke, do not fix it. Logan Diggs sure is not a position or a player that is going to be broken in college football. We got GT in the chat. LSU's going to win 55-35. I'm going to remember that. And if you're right, you're getting us, man, shout out. You might even be able to come on the show. We're going to let you phone in next week.
35.
If you get this right, you're phoning in every week and you're giving us the crystal ball predictions at that point. I mean, we're gonna ride the hot hand
We
if
have
that
a genius
goes.
in the chat.
Yeah, I mean, hell, we're just talking about riding the hot hand with Logan Diggs. If we got people in the chat predicting stuff, they got the script. I don't know what's going on. You working for the odds makers, bro? Well, we're going to go ahead and lean into what Coach Kelly was talking about here today. We sat with Coach Kelly, got to pick his brain, got to see how he's feeling, after the Ole Miss loss, going toward the Mizzou dub. Let's go ahead and listen to Coach here. All right, so we're gonna move back in to the defensive switch
Oh
up.
yeah.
Everybody's wondering what's going on at defense at LSU. You know, people are calling for jobs. That's a go-to. Whenever something goes wrong, everybody's calling for jobs. Hot seat. Is somebody getting fired? David, what you think about Matt House? What you think about this situation going on? What would you do if you were Coach Kelly? You gonna stay faithful? You gonna keep that trust in somebody that you had that trust in before? What are you moving on to? How do you go on from this? Do you let the noise get to you?
It's hard for people outside of the organization to not call for Matt House's job every week. Definitely as a fan, you look at the defense and you're like, what's going on? Like where is the disconnect? But I don't think Brian Kelly is at the stage where he's looking to replace Matt House. I mean, it's been a couple rough games, but that isn't enough to be like, all right, Matt House, you can't work here anymore. I think, like Brian Kelly reiterated it a couple days ago, like the defense is getting together. Matt House, it's not a problem schematically. He believes it's just some things that need to be tweaked up, player wise, maybe position wise, but they're confident in the scheme that they're running. They're confident in the defense they're playing, and that it can only get better from here. And I think that's the good thing. It can only get better. God knows what happens if it gets worse.
I agree. I think, it's always emotional overload whenever things go wrong, especially in sports. You got everybody turning into experts all the time. You got a lot of people, overcompensating, I believe. So I think that calling for Matt House's job, nah, that's not the way to go about it. I think instead, let's see how Matt House is able to, turn the tide. I think he's a pretty smart individual. If you're coaching in a Super Bowl, getting a ring, I think that you'd be able to turn some things around. So I'll give you, my brief synopsis of what the switches are at each position, what we're going to see going forward, how things are going. At the defensive line position, it seems like everyone's playing. You bring in the analyst, Coach P, you want to switch things up. Coach Kelly says the techniques are changing. Coach Kelly says that some schemes are changing on the defensive line position, and everybody's going to get reps, whether it be Mason Smith, Mekhi Wingo, Jacoby Gilroy, Jordan Jefferson. You got a lot of guys getting in and out. Paris Shan, even talked about Ovia Gofu. He talked about Swinson. Talked about Womack, who just became a fan favorite. You got everybody saying, where is Womack? I mean, when you're performing the way he is, turning heads, it's common to see that attention follow him. You saw that with Perk last year. You see that with a couple players here this year. But, I'm never one to question everything a coach does and just be like, man, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Because at the end of the day, they're getting paid the big bucks. Yep. They're in the position. They got the experience. And, there is times where coaches are wrong. A lot. There's times where coaches make wrong decisions. There's times where coaches might not always, know best. Like, let's say, for example, Coach Kelly after the Florida State game says that, this team wasn't who I thought they were, and he comes out and he recants that statement. He's like, no, they do have the factors that I thought they had, the characteristics, this, that, the other, but some things did not go according to plan, and that's because of, a needed recalibration of expectations. We're in year 2 with Brian Kelly. We had a great year 1. The pieces are there, but sometimes it's hard to put them together. I mean, look at A&M dumping out money to a bunch of freshmen last year, getting the number 1 recruiting class, not able to translate it. Some of the guys aren't even there. I mean, we got an A&M guy over here in Denver Harris. So I think that in this situation, it's easy to freak out. We see in the chat right now, 700 yards, 55 points. It's horrible. I didn't like seeing it. It was horrible, 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 horrible. When you got 49 points being scored by your offense, you got Jayden Daniels throwing dots all over the field. You get a hat trick of touchdowns. You get all kind of things going in your favor, and you still lose. There's an issue. Yep. So without a shadow of a doubt, defense needs to change. However, I think, we got the pieces to be able to do it. I think that all in all, let's say linebacker position moving this week. We don't have Omar Speights. He's probably going to be doubtful as to what we hear. So it's going to be a Whit Weeks takeover. We're going to keep rolling through the veterans. veterans of Harold Perkins. I think he's a veteran. A lot of people are going to say, well, you can't read the coverages. He's only in the second year, still really young, learned the position. Yeah, but he was here last year. He gets the culture. And on a team, on a defense especially of LSU, where there's a lot of new pieces, new roles, that's going to be one of your more experienced and seasoned guys. That's just how it is. So at that linebacker position, you're going to have to lean on your strong suits. And in the DB room, boy, oh boy, did the DB room get shaken up. So, going into the year, we thought that the DB room, was an issue, was a sore spot. But today we find out that Deuce Chestnut no longer with LSU. So that makes things even harder. Like now we're losing Deuce Chestnut at an important spot, cornerback position. That's going to be difficult. 4 guys at cornerback, according to Coach Kelly, are going to be Denver Harris, Zai Alexander, LaTerrence Welch, Ashton Stamps. So, you got not necessarily a limited room, but not the room you once expected when you had the Deuce Chestnut, the J.K. Johnsons. You had all these guys locked and loaded, ready to go, and now you're down to 4. A couple of them are inexperienced, to say the least, and that's half of them. That's half of the 4 that you have, but they're still performing well. I think that they're going to be able to go out there and they're just going to have to learn. Honestly, at that position, you're just going to have to go out there, go through the reps, try to get as many mental reps as possible. But in the end, as a defensive back, you need to be on the field. Yeah. You need to be in the live, in the thick of it. So this is where they're really going to be able to turn things around. And if you can get these guys to return and bring them in next year, then you could potentially develop a room that is a DBU-esque room. But I think that right now, when you got transfers coming in and they aren't in long and you don't got much time to work with them, I think that can be a big reason as to why the defense is in the situation they're in. The NFL draft came and took plenty of people, as Coach Kelly said. Most of their surefire tacklers, most of their veterans, most of their guys in those leadership roles are gone. So there's a big turnaround. Had a great year 1. But, what was he? He had 39 scholarship players. If you're losing the majority of them, it just seems like, I'm not going to say you're expected to have issues, but it's not crazy to see this. You know what I mean? I feel like LSU definitely was, at the beginning of the year, a team that could have been national champion, a team that could have been in the college football playoff. Yep. After week 1, we kind of got a taste of reality. We kind of saw where the defense was, what things, need to be fixed. But I think what you switch here, one, you got to switch the narrative. You can't just think you guys are, defeated before the game starts. You can't be, we've had a rough string of games. Statistically, we're playing horrible. We don't have a lot of guys with us. You got to be able to motivate yourself. You got to be able to get up, perform. And I really think the chip on the shoulder mentality is probably one of the better ways to convert this energy into something positive for the team. I think that, if Matt House, if Brian Kelly, if any of these coaches really want to motivate these guys, the number one way in this situation is going to be utilize that bulletin board material. And, it's easy to say you don't care about the outside noise, but when people on the news or people, on the internet are talking about you all day long and, saying, questioning whether or not you can play, I'm sure that that's going to set in. So I think we could be seeing a charged up LSU defense this Saturday. We could be seeing a turnaround from Matt House, from Brian Kelly, from all of the guys at LSU. I think a couple pieces away, like we said, defensive switch up. It looks like they're going to let everybody in that positional group get out there, try to just, see who can be the guys. Coach Kelly said we want to start the people that are going to help us win. They're going to have to figure some things out. And with the linebacker position, shout out to Whit Weeks for being able to jump into this role, into a very demanding position at linebacker where, you're coming in. Sometimes you're playing coverage. It's definitely one of the more, inspiring stories, I think, this year. Speaking of inspiring stories, or just stories that are kind of hit the heart a little bit. Greg Brooks yesterday with the cancer.
Yep.
Prayers up to Greg Brooks.
Prayers out to him, man.
And I think, everybody has Greg Brooks in their thoughts. Yep. Everybody at LSU, that's been one of the things that everyone wants to get more updates on. So, yesterday when everyone got that update, I think everybody's hearts were a little heavy. So I wanted to, mention that before we switched on to our next topic here. Picks for the week, top 3 college football games. Oh, yeah. We got someone in the chat talking about Oklahoma gonna beat Texas. What do we think about this,
so?
David? What do we think?
Okay, Red River Showdown. I mean, it's one of the more exciting games to watch every year, but I think I got UT winning. Yeah, I got UT winning. I mean, it's going to be an exciting matchup. It's going to be the last time both teams are in the Big 12 before they join the SEC, so definitely going to be something nice to watch. But I think UT is just going to take this game. I don't got confidence in Oklahoma.
All right,
What about you?
All right. I don't think Oklahoma is ready for this. I'm going to be honest. Let's look at last year. You see that they lose. Yeah, Dylan Gabriel wasn't out there, but they lose 49-0. I mean, to be able to try to get your guys lined up after a 49-0 spank down last year, it might be one of those chip on the shoulder moments, though. We're just talking about motivating a team. I mean, hell, there ain't no other way to motivate a team besides reminding them of the butt whooping that they took 365 days ago. I think Texas growing leap and bounds. You know, we want to talk about NIL. If we want to kind of go down a rabbit hole, there's teams that are putting together squads with NIL money. They're coming out here, and they weren't relevant in terms of, you know, national championship status and college football status, and then all of a sudden, boom, here's USC, here's Texas. You know, here's, I mean, even TCU last year maybe. You got a lot of teams around here that are popping up out of nowhere. I think Texas is going to be one of them. You know, UT's kind of a decent squad, but I've never seen them get mentioned as, you know, some people are even calling them their number one team in college football. It's been a while since we've seen that. So, you know, the Longhorns are trying to show out, trying to do something. I think they can get that Red River Showdown W. However, I think things are going to, you know, flip on their head in college football playoff time. I don't know if that's going to be a squad that's making it to the top four and going. What do you think about UT's chances going all the way to the promised land?
I save all the UT fans a headache. Just you guys aren't getting.
Slow your roll.
That won't happen. Red River Showdown, that's a dub. But come on, college football playoffs. You got a couple more years, some more NIL deals to come through before that can happen.
And we got some A&M slander in the chat. I'm glad y'all are helping with the segues. Y'all are helping because we're going right to Alabama and A&M right after that. Y'all are saying you hate A&M. You're saying A&M's not getting blown out. And look, I agree that A&M is not going to get blown out. I think that could be one of the closer games. I think that could be a game. You know, Vegas has a spread at 1. That's a pick 'em. They think that, you know, the noise might be a factor. They're thinking that A&M, they got that environment over there at, Kyle Field. We go in there and lose last season. Horrible. Oh, Lord. Horrible game. But I think, you know, Max Johnson at A&M, we know Max Johnson all too well. I think he's rocky performance. You get A&M losing to Miami. They did beat Arkansas and Auburn. I think the number one deciding factor for this game is the rushing game. How are you going to be able to utilize the legs? Whether it be Alabama, whether it be A&M, how is, you know, Jimbo Fisher going to try and out-scheme Nick Saban? There's going to be a lot of different twists. There's going to be a lot of different things. I think that when Nick Saban plays former coaches, it's always exciting. It's always fun. It's always
most definitely
interesting, to say the least.
I'd say that this game right here is crucial for Texas and Bama, both of them coming in 4-1. Both teams want to control their fate in the SEC West, and another loss puts either team out of contention. So I think it's definitely going to be a very close matchup. I always love to watch Jimbo Fisher and Nick Saban go at it against each other. So it's definitely going to be a great game, and it's about who can control the run. Yeah, whoever can control that run is going to take this game over, in my opinion.
And, you know, I think that Alabama is in one of the more interesting years. You saw them open up the year with the quarterback carousel. Not sure of who they're going to select, but with Nick Saban putting the trust in Jalen Milroe, I think that the running game, like we said, is going to be even more prevalent in this matchup. Now you got your quarterback at the helm, able to stretch things out, extend plays like a Jayden Daniels, go ahead and keep things alive. I think that Alabama's got the leg up. They got the advantage. Sure, there's home field advantage. Sure, there's noise. But, I mean, we're talking about SEC football here. At the end of the day, they're going to be used to that. So I think I'm going to lean towards Alabama here. No, they're not going to get, you know, a huge win. But I do think Alabama's going to flex some muscles. That SEC West competition is kind of going to stay in the same trend that we see it going in. Alabama leading it. And Texas A&M heading back to the bottom where they normally are. Let's keep talking about the SEC West, though. I think there's another interesting game. This is my third of the top 3 games of the week. Last but not least, we're going to talk about Ole Miss and Arkansas. I know not a lot of people want to talk about Ole Miss. A lot of people want to forget about Ole Miss. Pretend Ole Miss doesn't even exist anymore. It's not a college football team. Who's Ole Miss? What's going on? Anyway, negative 11.5 according to Vegas over Arkansas. Now, that's steep. You know what that smells like? Almost a similar situation that Vegas put LSU and Arkansas in.
What's going on, Vegas?
I mean, I don't know if I would feel comfortable even looking at that spread. I feel like just looking at that puts me in jeopardy of getting that bad juju. I don't even want to talk about it anymore. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game.
Yeah.
That total crushed. I think that both of these offenses can perform. Of course, Ole Miss has the better offense. Of course. But Ole Miss just let LSU run rampant. Yeah, we got an extreme number 3 passing offense, as you mentioned. But Arkansas was able to kind of hang some a little bit. I believe KJ Jefferson, hard to get down, mobile quarterback, pretty accurate, in and out the pocket, also extending plays. I'm gonna make a hot take. Might get killed for this in the comment section, but I will make a hot take. I think Ole Miss and Arkansas are on the same level. I don't really see anything in Ole Miss that I'm like, wow, so much different. I mean, yeah, Jackson Dart, great quarterback.
Yeah.
KJ Jefferson, also a great quarterback. Yep. You know, I think the Lane Kiffin element helps Ole Miss a lot situationally. I think, though, that LSU lost that game Saturday because of unfortunate mistakes. I don't think that Lane Kiffin win is going to make me think Ole Miss is in a position to take this and run, go to the SEC title game in Atlanta and win it. I don't think that they can take off of Georgia. I don't think they can take off in Alabama. Obviously, they lost to them in the regular season. So I think that Lane Kiffin, this is one of his biggest wins of his career, unfortunately, as a head coach. And I don't know if it's really going to change the tune around Ole Miss as many people think it would. I think Ole Miss and Arkansas are a lot more similar than people want to admit. And I'm not taking any shots here. I'm honestly just trying to give some flowers to Arkansas because of the performance that they had against us. I think negative 11.5 is insane, absurd. I mean, Ole Miss, no, I'm not touching that. I'll take Arkansas plus 11.5 on that. Ole Miss will probably win. Yeah, Ole Miss will more than likely win, but by 12 points? I mean, are you ridiculous? I would leave that alone. So what do you think about that? What do you think about that game, that spread, this whole situation that we have unfolding in the SEC West?
I never really thought about it until you said that. Like Arkansas and Ole Miss are kind of relative to each other.
Kind of mid.
Because that is true. LSU did lose to Ole Miss because of LSU made mistakes, not really because Ole Miss did anything better. But I will give Ole Miss credit that they have a lot of pieces on that offense. Jackson Dart, not afraid to throw the ball, not afraid to light it up. They can get that run game going, but same for Arkansas. I mean, KJ Jefferson is already a hard quarterback to get down. Dude's almost 200. He's over 220 pounds. That Arkansas team, when they start running, they can also get the ball going on that run game. So I definitely think it's going to be a nice game to watch. I think that scoreboard's going to go up a little bit, but I don't think it's going to be a 12-point game for Ole Miss to take. I definitely think it's going to be a little closer than that. If I was Vegas, I'd probably give Ole Miss probably a touchdown over them.
I would go.
It'd be a one-score game.
I wouldn't go further than negative 2.5.
Ooh, you're keeping it real tight.
Oh, yeah. I'm not, I mean, bro, I'm nervous because I think that Ole Miss, especially with the pressure that they got on them after this big LSU win, I think that if there's any time for Lane Kiffin to really lay an egg, and speaking of eggs, shout out to the Egg Bowl last year, Mississippi State beating Ole Miss. I mean, this is a similar situation as well. I think that this is a game where Lane Kiffin is supposed to win, expected to win, and I mean, he might not just be able to get his guys going. Who knows?
Yeah,
Negative.
I definitely think this is Ole Miss's game to lose, and if they go out there and they get some mistakes out, they can't really convert how they converted last week against LSU, then it's definitely a game that I could see getting really tighter than possible. But I definitely think Ole Miss is going to come out, get a dub. It might be tight, like you said, might be within that 2-5 range, but I think they're going to go out and take that win.
And I do wanna mention, there is weeks where we get some picks right, and we come on here and toot our own horn. So I think after last week, we're gonna have to face the music. Our picks weren't too good last week, but guess what? We're gonna spin it around. We're gonna go undefeated this week. I'm telling you, I'm calling it. I'm calling it. We're going undefeated. We got Texas getting the dub. We got Arkansas covering, but Ole Miss more than likely. I'll lean toward that. And we got Alabama walking out a College Station SEC West leader. So that's going to be the picks for our top 3 games of the week. Y'all can hold us to it. Y'all can hold us to it. Sometimes it goes great. Sometimes it goes like last week. And last week,
I'm feeling confident this week, though. I'm feeling good.
I'm feeling confident every week. There ain't a week I ain't feeling confident about. Yeah, I mean, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So we're going to take 3 of them every week, every Thursday live here on YouTube. Y'all make sure y'all don't miss it. But we're talking about last week. You know, we're dwelling about it. I haven't really said too much about it. Let's dive into it. LSU and Ole Miss. We'll give y'all a brief recap. I'm going to keep things brief just because of how rough it was. But horror, I would describe it as horror. That's my number one word for it. I was sitting there scared the entire game. I couldn't even sit down. I couldn't relax. I could never relax watching LSU on TV. You can't go from watching LSU on the sideline to being able to see all the things. You know, I want to be able to see who's in and out, what's Coach Kelly doing, who's he yelling at. I love being there and just being in it. Watching it on TV makes it feel that much more nerve-wracking.
Oh, man.
You feel like, you can't see what you want.
Beat it the entire time.
The commercials. I think the commercials might do it for me too.
Man.
But I think it was a great game for Jayden Daniels. I think he flexed some muscles here. I think he's got the entire LSU fan base, on his side for the first time in a long time. You had a lot of people calling for Jayden Daniels' job for the past, 2 seasons. But I believe finally, people are starting to see, man, this is a pretty decent quarterback. If we get him in a scheme where he's comfortable, if he's able to start off confident, keep it accurate, and keep that ball rolling, he's pretty dangerous. I'd put him in the top 3 Heisman rankings. I'd put him as top 5 college quarterback in the entire nation for sure. I'm plopping him right in there. You heard it here first. I think this was pretty good for him. When things are going wrong for your team and you're able to stay calm and you're able to put things on paper, you're able to continue to add to that streak, add to that consistency. Then you're doing things right. If you're scoring 49 points, if you're getting that many touchdowns, you're getting that many points, you're doing the right thing. What do you see from Jayden Daniels against Ole Miss? What do you see? What do you think? How you feeling?
For the most part, I've seen just poise. I mean, he has incredible poise. There's not enough pressure that gets to him. I mean, this guy, like Jayden Daniels, he is a true leader of that offense, and I think he did a really good job at making sure it wasn't the offense that lost them that game. Up until the very end, I'd say he played really well. I mean, he did have some rough throws. I'm pretty sure he had that rough interception, too, at the start. And he almost threw that interception at the end, if you remember that last drive. That scared me. That I did not like. I was like, okay, don't throw that no more. I do think there are some decision things that obviously he has to grow on, but that's just, you're always gonna grow in your athletic career, and I think that's something he's gonna brush up on, those little decisions that he makes. But Jayden Daniels can lead this LSU offense, and if it wasn't for a mediocre defense right now, I definitely think that the narrative would be so flipped over on his head.
Yeah, if like we said earlier, if you put last year's LSU Tiger defense with this year's LSU offense, you got yourself a college football playoff bid. That ticket's punched. They already booked all your hotels, your planes, everything. Your meals, your chefs are waiting there for you. That's your game to lose.
And the defense has these times where they play so well, too. They get these 3rd down stops, these 4th down stops. The energy's through the roof. Because when it comes to energy, I think that the LSU defense, they know how to turn up. Like, you got Perk over there trash talking.
Slap.
You got him dancing. You got Andre Sam just losing his mind. They're so entertaining to watch when they're actually doing their job. Now,
I agree.
The problem is it's hard to find them doing their job. It's missed tackles, missed assignments, running after players, like just missing tackles, not playing as aggressive as they can. And I think those are all things the players themselves can fix. It's not something that Matt House has to go in and tweak. It's like you got the players just need to start playing better football.
100%.
That's something that they definitely can do. They all have the potential to do it on the LSU defense. and I think it's gonna happen sooner than later. I think this Mizzou game is the perfect time for them to test out who can be on that front line. Let everybody come and let everybody take a couple reps, and whoever you got that can stick, let them stay out there. Don't take them out. Let them keep that momentum, because I definitely think that front seven is gonna need to put on their best show to not allow our DBs to get exposed all night. I mean, we only got 4 out there. The job is already as hard enough on them. I know the DB coach is already telling them that this is going to be a big game for them. This front seven needs to put pressure on the quarterback, put a lot of pressure on that run game, really stop them in their tracks before they can take off, and I think that'll just help the whole team. That'll help Jayden Daniels come out there and lead that offense.
100%. And the missed tackles, that was a very big sore spot. Yep. We got the graphic up on the screen right now. LSU missed 34 tackles for an extra 288 yards. Jesus. 288 yards of hidden yardage because of missed tackles. Now, look, it's easier said than done. Go out, tackle them, get them down. I'm not going to say that I can do it. I'm not going to say, put me in front of Caleb Jackson and I'll get turned into powder. So I think, they got a rough job. Being safety in college football, at any level of football, it's very stressful. I'd say DB is one of the hardest positions in football. It's tied for first. I'm not going to give it the clear cut because you got quarterback, you got O-line. I don't want to hear no chirping, so I'm going to give them a 3-way tie. But I believe, these guys got a lot of pressure on them, like you said. They got a lot of attention on them. I think, that's kind of playing into it. Also, the new roles, the new guys, not been in these situations before. That's also playing into it. I think, though, there's going to be a certain point where they're going to have to get over that. They're going to have to get over the fact that they're inexperienced, the fact that they're kind of, going through rough patches. They're going to have to just buy in, be confident, know that they're at LSU for a reason. They're here to play football. Yep. They're some of the biggest, baddest, toughest defenders in the SEC. Definitely. I mean, you hear Garrett Nussmeier preseason saying they got dogs in that defense. Some days, he's like, I got to play against LSU defense in practice. You know what I mean? Like, they got some guys out there. I think that if you can take that energy and, you can take that narrative, flip it on its head, create some momentum, that LSU can finish out the year strong. Now, can they get to the SEC title game? It's no longer in their hands. So that's a little murky area. Can we get to, potentially a New Year's Six bowl? Yeah, maybe. But who's leading the SEC now if LSU isn't? Unfortunately, still leading the SEC is going to be Georgia. They had a rough game against Auburn. I was hoping that they would be able to knock them off.
It would have been an upset.
I want to see some chaos. I want to see number 1 go down.
Hey,
I mean, we're in year 3 of this.
The SEC West is already looking unpredictable. So if Georgia can get knocked off,
anything goes.
It look insane.
So I think I'm gonna say who's leading the SEC at this point. It's gonna be Georgia or Alabama. I think they got it. They got it in control. Who's got the SEC West though? It's more than likely going to be Alabama's division as of right now. However, here's what's interesting: who does LSU play in a couple of weeks? They play Alabama. Can we do what we did last year? Can Brian Kelly keep his undefeated hold on Nick Saban in the SEC?
I hope. I mean, we have so much, but just thinking about it is getting me excited because, God, I remember last year that Bama game, insane. The fans alone caused an earthquake. Now we're going to Tuscaloosa this time. It's a pretty hostile environment. The Bama fans, they ride hard, but LSU rides harder too. I'll tell you what, I think that stadium's going to be split between purple and red. But the purple are going to be louder. The energy is going to be in there. The players are going to...
You think we're going to do a full takeover at Tuscaloosa? I unfortunately think we might be walking into a sea of red.
Oh.
I think we might be outnumbered. That's a big trip to go to Tuscaloosa. I think, that light show, you got all the recruits that are be on the sideline. Oh, yeah. We might be outnumbered. I think LSU might be a little outnumbered at that Alabama game. I don't know. I think it's not the scariest game left on the schedule.
No.
We got some tough games left on the schedule. You still got to face Mizzou this weekend. Yep. You still got to face Auburn. You still got to face Florida, Bama, A&M. You still got that SEC thick competitive schedule. But if LSU takes home Alabama, what does the SEC West look like here? If Ole Miss gets to win against Arkansas, the fact that they lost to Alabama, you'd have the fact that LSU lost to Ole Miss, and you'd have the fact that Alabama lost to LSU. You'd have like a triangle of SEC West teams fighting for relevancy at the top of their division. I think the only way to settle it is a bracket. No, I'm joking. I think that more than likely it's probably going to be leaning towards Alabama. You're going to enter these tiebreaker methods, and if LSU's got multiple losses, they got 2 losses, hopefully not 3. Hopefully we don't get another loss, because if that happens, you can throw the SEC championship dreams in the garbage. If we get another loss, I don't know how we're going to be able to pull out of it. I'll be real. I'll be really, really, really real with y'all right now. I don't know how we'll pull out of this one right now. I think that we're waiting for somebody to mess up, and we're going to slip right in when the opportunity is hot.
Right there.
We've seen it last year. This is a reminiscent time. LSU with 2 losses. Going into the Bama game looking to steer some momentum. Watching chaos ensue around them. I just don't know if we can see lightning strike twice. I mean, we already haven't in terms of the transfer portal turnaround. Our luck in some of these games. Ole Miss, for instance. I think the Ole Miss game last year, us losing that was expected.
Yep.
This year, not at all. It might be a little rough for LSU to steer this ship. I think who's leading the SEC is probably, unfortunately, going to be some of the teams you've been seeing over and over and over and over and over and over and over. Georgia Bulldogs, Alabama Crimson Tide. It'll be interesting. Kirby Smart, Nick Saban. You got Brian Kelly. You got Lane Kiffin. You got a lot of minds. Some people would throw Jimbo Fisher out there in that group. I don't think A&M's got a snowball's chance in hell of getting to Atlanta, bro. The only way they're getting to Atlanta is if they're buying a ticket and they're attending as fans. Yeah, Jimbo Fisher's not going there. Look, we might have to eat these words. I'll make them short and sweet. I'll stop, but man, I don't know. They got NIL money, but they don't really have a shot. I don't think you can buy a ticket to the national championship as a contending team. I don't think you can just buy your way there. So Texas A&M's gonna have to turn some things around. Well, thank you for tuning into our weekly episode every week, every Thursday. We're tuning it in. We had one day we had to do a Friday. One day. We won't talk about that day. Energy didn't want us to go live on Thursday. But going to be keeping going live next Thursday. Y'all hit that notification bell. Don't miss it. We're going to be breaking down, hopefully, an LSU W. Hopefully so. And then we're going to be setting our sights on Auburn. More LSU football in Tiger Stadium coming in. Not this Saturday, but next. Y'all stay tuned. We got more content coming your way. Hit that subscribe button. Follow us on social media at Verdin Verdict. Thank y'all for tuning in. Y'all have a great night.